Okay, we're up to Eis Vav. He was explaining in the Maimer why this Hamshacha, Yeducha Havaya Kol Masecha V'Chasidecha Yivarechucha, that the Hamshacha of Yivarechucha, the Hamshacha in a way of bracha, into Koi, into Malchus, from the level of Yeducha, from the level that's higher than Ishtalshalos, this combination of these two advantages, that this is done by Chasidecha, by the Chasidim, the ones who practice Chesed. And he explained, because tzedakah is giving what's deserved. Tzedakah is milashon tzedek v'yesher, what's just, what's proper. And tzedakah, beruchnis, is to give malchus those levels that malchus deserves, those levels that belong in malchus, which is the 5 components of malchus. Chesed is bringing into malchus what's higher than malchus, which is atik. And therefore, this avodah of bringing what's completely higher than ishtalshalos, which is atik, into malchus, yivarechucha, yeducha, into yivarechucha, is connected with chasidecha, with the ones who practice chesed. And now we're going to elaborate much, much more on that, starting here. Umamshich b'maimer, in Eis Vav. The Maimer continues in explaining the accomplishment of chasidecha, the ones who are practicing chesed, that they have the ability to draw down this high level of yeducha, yevarechucha, to draw it down into kay, into malchus. So to understand this better, we have to bring another explanation about what chesed is, the way it's explained simply in Nigla and Gemara. Because the Isa b'Gemara, the Gemara explains, in the contrast between tzedakah and chesed, shet tzedakah hi la'aniyim. Tzedakah can be practiced only with aniyim. Who could you give tzedakah to? To someone who's poor. Ugmilos chasadim, chesed, giving chasadim, practicing kindness, who bein la'aniyim, bein la'ashirim. It's not limited to aniyim. There could be someone who's wealthy who's in need of a gemilas chesed, whether a loan or a different kindness. So chesed can even be given to someone who's already wealthy. Says the Maimer, to understand what chesed is, umizeh shegmilos chasadim, higam la'ashirim, from the fact that gmilos chasadim, that chesed can be practiced even with someone who's wealthy, move on from this is understood shehahashpa shemitzad hachesed hi l'mayla mimadregas asher, that the hashpa of chesed, that what's being given when it's in the course of practicing chesed, is a level that's above ashiras, it's beyond wealth. It's something that's higher than wealth. Because you're giving it to someone who's wealthy. What can I give someone who's wealthy? I can't give him wealth, because if he's wealthy, that means he already possesses wealth. If I'm giving chesed to someone who's already a asher, the chesed has to consist of something that's over and beyond ashiras. So now this is what it said in the Maimer. The Rabbi is going to elaborate on that and explain that deduction better. We could have said, what's the basis for this? Who says that chesed is something that's completely beyond the whole definition of wealth? We could have said, even though you're giving chesed to someone who's already wealthy, maybe the chesed consists of the fact that I'm increasing his wealth. I'm giving him greater wealth than he had before. Why does chesed have to mean giving something that's beyond wealth? Seemingly, we could have suggested, what is it? What is the nature? What does it consist of giving chesed to someone who's already wealthy? It consists of giving a greater wealth than he had earlier. But the Maimer doesn't say that. The Maimer says the fact that gemilas chesed is being given to someone who's already a usher means that what chesed is about something that's beyond wealth. He says, why does the Maimer say that? That the Maimer says, Shashpa shemitzad chesed. That what chesed is giving is something that's beyond the level of usher. Yeshleimer, says the Rabbi, the reasoning could be as follows. It says the keshashpa shemashpiyim loy achshav hu inyan shebe'erkei. When I give someone something that has some connection to him, hare kivan shemikaydem hayachaser ha'inyan shemashpiyim loi. If he was missing that beforehand, then he couldn't have been considered truly wealthy. If someone is in real estate and he has buildings, that's his wealth. He owns a lot of buildings. And I give him another building. Well, 1 second. If he didn't have that building and his wealth is that he has buildings, then you can't say that he was truly wealthy. Ashirus is a love as a completion. Wealth is ultimate wealth. To describe someone as a usher, the wealth can't be lacking anything. So anything that's be'erkei, anything that's possible for this person to possess, has to be that he possesses it. So therefore, that can't be what I'm giving him. What could I give him? If this person has buildings and I give him another planet, that he didn't have that other planet doesn't mean that he wasn't missing in his wealth. That's not the area that he contains, b'chlal. So the Rebbe says, if you're giving something to an usher, the only thing that I can give someone that Torah considers him a usher, so therefore his wealth can't be missing anything, could be something that's a completely different level. It's a different madrega. It's not something that it's in the level of his ashirus. And therefore the Rebbe Rashab concluded that chesed, because it's being given to someone who's described as a usher, has to be giving something that's beyond wealth. It's a completely higher madrega than ashirus. Therefore the Maimer explains, the Gemilos Chasadim la'ashirim. What is this Gemilos Chasadim that's being given to someone who's wealthy already? He sha'ashefa shemitzad ha'chesed he l'mayla mimadregas ashers. Because what's being given in the way of chesed to someone who's already an usher is something that's a completely different level. It's a different category. It's a different type of possession that's not the type that he had before. Because if it's something that's comparable to what he already had, and he didn't have it until now, then this person wasn't an usher to begin with. It's a completely different category. So therefore, that he didn't have it before I gave it to him, didn't take away from his wealth, because it was something that wasn't be'erka, it wasn't into his category of wealth. So this is all going to explain us soon, Beruchnius, what the true idea of chesed is, so that we'll understand better the accomplishment of chasidecha yivarechucha. So till now we said chesed is higher than tzedakah, and we said tzedakah is giving whatever is lacking. And what's lacking in Sfirat HaMalchus is Keser, Chachma, Bina, Zah, and Malchus. So therefore, from that we already arrived at the conclusion that Chasidecha are bringing down the level of Atik. That's higher than Keser, Chachma, Bina, Zah, and Malchus. And now we're going to take that further and say, but since Chesed is even higher than Ashirus, by definition, because you're giving it to someone who's already a usher, it has to be a completely different category of wealth. It's going to be an even higher level beruchnius than what we said until now. And we're all building up that building. So, Oizayin, Ubechtei levar inyan hachesed shelamayla me'ashiros, to explain what it means and what it means beruchnius, this idea of chesed, of giving something even to someone who's wealthy. So you're giving something that's completely beyond wealth, something that's a completely different category of wealth. To explain that more thoroughly, Makdim B'Hamaimer, he prefaces in the Maimer, for us to understand and appreciate something that's higher than wealth, we have to properly appreciate what does it mean Ashirus, what's wealth. Because Chesed is giving something higher than that. Makdim B'Hamaimer bir in Ashirus, and when was a time in history when there was an abundance of wealth? We know from the Psukim and from Chazal that was during the days of Shlomo, and that was both begashmius in a material way and beruchnius. So by understanding how it was manifested, this wealth that existed in the times of Shlomo, we'll be able to understand what wealth means, and then we'll be able to understand what chasidecha are who draw down something that's higher than Ashirus. So the Maimer first explains, Biur inyan ha'ashirus shahaya b'mei shleimah. We have to better understand the ashirus, the wealth that reigned, that existed in the times of Shlomo, which was Darga Hachi Nailas Shabashirus, that was the ultimate level of wealth of Ashirus that existed, that we know about in history. So the Maimer explains, Dezeh Shabimei Shlomo have a kaima sira bashlemusa, that by the times of Shlomo HaMelech there was the ultimate wealth. And this is described in Chazal by the fact that it says in the days of Shlomo, kaima sira bashlemusa. The moon was in the state of its greatest completion. The moon, representing Yidden, was complete. This shows on the wealth of Yidden in every single area, like we'll explain. Because that it says it was kaima sira bashlemusa. Now the moon l'mayla represents the sphere of Malchus. What was the shleimus of Malchus in the days of Shlomo HaMelech? Hu deneisaf lazeh shenimshechu b'Malchus levana sira hei hapartzufim shenechseru. Besides that Malchus in the times of Shlomo, we said the world was created, so Malchus became devoid of the 5 levels of Keser, Chachma, Bina, Zohar, and Malchus. In the days of Shlomo HaMelech, when Malchus was at its completest level, it got back all the 5 Eidos that was missing. Malchus was at its greatest illumination. Besides that, but that's not Ashirus. We said earlier in the Maimer, that would be tzedakah. That's just getting what you're missing, not being missing anything. Ashirus, Bashlemusa, the Shleimus of Malchus, that connects with Ashirus, has to be something more. So therefore, says the Maimer, besides that the sphere Malchus had what was missing, replaced, Nimshachka Bagam Hagili de Pnimius HaKaser Atik. Malchus had also Atik, the Pnimius HaKaser, the level of Elikus that's completely above and detached from Ishtalshalos, and therefore it can't be described as being something that Malchus is missing, because it doesn't have any connection with Ishtalshalos to begin with. Atik, the Pnimius of Kaser, that was also Nimshach to Malchus in the times of Shlomo HaMelech. And that's the Kaima Sira Bashlemusa, that's the true Shleimus, that's the wealth of Malchus, the way it is Beruchnis. Now, just so to preview, so obviously we're going to come until now in the Maimer, we reached the understanding that Chasidecha Yivarechucha is that the Chasidecha brought down into Malchus Atik, because that's the only thing that's higher than Tzedakah, that's Chasidecha. Now, we're seeing that we're going to take that a step further, because we said Atik is part of the Ashirus that was there b'mei Shlomo. Chasidim, Chesed is even Tashirim, is something that's higher than Ashirus. That's going to have to be something that's higher than Atik. But first we're going to elaborate on this Ashirus, and what was the nature of this Ashirus that included Beruchnius, that in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, Malchus contained all the 5 levels, plus what's higher than them, Atik. So in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, when there was the greatest state of wealth, when there was Nimshach and Malchus, Sira Bashlemusa, all the levels, Anatik, may Ashirus, the Malchus, from the Ashirus of Sfirat HaMalchus, that Malchus is Knesset Yisrael, is the Sheirish of Yidden, is the Sheirish of all Yidden, it's called Knesset Yisrael. From that is the Sheirish, the root of Yidden, from that came down to the way Yidden were in the world, also the ultimate state of Ashirus of wealth. Was Nimshecha Ashirus Muflaga, came down in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, tremendous wealth, Gam Lamata, the way they are down here in the world, and this was in every single area. It was Ashirus Muflaga Begashmias, in a material way. Yidden had tremendous wealth in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, that the pasuk says, V'achein kesav nechshav b'mei Shlomo l'mumma. Money was not valued in the times of Shlomo HaMelech because there was so much of it that no one cared about it. No one paid any attention. And it included Vashirus Muflaga Beruchnius. There was the greatest era of wealth in a spiritual sense. Shabimei Shlomo Dafka Nivne Beis HaMikdash. Then was built the Beis HaMikdash. That's the greatest spiritual wealth that Eden possessed. Dagili Shaya B'Beis HaMikdash. Who gilui naila yeser mehagili shahaya b'mishkan shahaya mikedem. This was the ultimate wealth beruchnius, the Beis Hamikdash that Yidden had in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, because this was greater than anything that was previously. Before the Beis Hamikdash, there was the Mishkan, but the gilui of the Beis Hamikdash was beruchnius, a greater wealth than the Mishkan, and soon in the Maimer we're gonna explain exactly what the difference between the two is, and in what way the Beis Hamikdash is a greater Gili than the Mishkan. Ola Haisif, in the Maimer it says that the wealth, the Ashiras Bimei Shleime, was in the possession of just tremendous material wealth, that the Pasuk says, Ein Kesef Nechshav Bimei Shleime L'Uma, money wasn't looked at as important, and Beruchni is that there was the Beis Hamikdash. But in truth, was specifically seen in the Beis Hamikdash, the spiritual wealth, but it was even before the Beis Hamikdash was built. This was throughout the whole era of Shlomo HaMelech's reign. The great Gili, the great spiritual wealth that was in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, who gam lifnei shenivna Beis Hamikdash. This was the case before the Beis Hamikdash was actually built as well. What was the reason? We learned this also in the last Maimer that we learned. Why was the Beis Hamikdash built through Shlomo HaMelech? Even though David HaMelech prepared the blueprints, prepared the plans, who Kamesha Kasav, the Pasuk gives the reason for this. Because Shlomo Yeh Ish Menucha, Shlomo was a person of peace, Vishalim Visheket Etin al Yisrael B'Yamav, and the Eibishter says the Yidden will enjoy a period of peace and tranquility during the time of Shlomo HaMelech, V'lachein hu yivna bayis lishmi, and therefore he'll build the Beis Hamikdash. So the reason for the building of the Beis Hamikdash in the times of Shlomo HaMelech was because of the Shalim that Yidden experienced in his days. In that case, the Shalom of Shlomo HaMelech wasn't only in the fact that the Beis Hamikdash was built. It was even before it was built. That was the reason why his reign was the ideal time for the Beis Hamikdash to be built. So the Rebbe points out throughout the whole time of Shlomo HaMelech, there was this Ashiros that's expressed itself in the greatest wealth, Begashmis and Beruchnis. Yeah. Yeah. What? Right. But it says about money also. There's two psukim, I think. No? Maybe. What? Yeah, there's another time in Chumash we have, Zav, V'di Zav. The gold was not valued, yeah.
So they had so much money, what about their labor?
What about their what?
Labor, work.
What about their work?
What did they do?
They went to the Beis Hamikdash and they enjoyed Gilui Elikos.
So nobody worked.
They built the Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah. They brought karbanos. V'yadua. So now we're going to explain specifically what was the nature of this Ashirus Beruchnius, that will help us understand what Ashirus is, and that will help us understand what Chesed is that's above Ashirus. V'yadua d'zeh shekol hagayim hayu betelim l'shleimei, that all of the Goyim were bottled to Shlomo HaMelech. Shalachein haya biyamav minucha v'shalim, that was the nature of this shalom. When we speak about shalom, that we learned in the previous Maimer, all the Maimarim say, shalom is that the enemy doesn't exist, doesn't have a thought to oppose you. This was there in the times of Shlomo HaMelech. That's why he was shalom be'etzem, not like David HaMelech that had enemies that he had to conquer. What was the cause for this? Why, in fact, were there no enemies? Was there no opposition? Was a result of the Gili Elikus, because there was such a tremendous Gili Elikus in the times of Shlomo HaMelech that the Klippos were bottled, and therefore there was no enemies that would stand up against Shlomo HaMelech. So the wealth Beruchnius was what brought about the Shalom in a literal sense that he was a Ish Shalom. And this was also what brought about by Shlomo HaMelech. It says that everyone came to Shlomo HaMelech, and the story with Malka Shva that came to Shlomo HaMelech, and they came to hear his great wisdom. So on a simple level, so we think, oh, Shlomo was very smart and everyone was impressed by his wisdom. It says that Tama Amiti al Zeh, the true reason for this was also a manifestation of the ruchnistic wealth of the Gili Elikus. Shabo love they came to Mushanimshechul Elikus. They were nimshach, they were drawn to the Gili Elikus. All of the goyim, all of the klippos, all of the sparks in the world were drawn to Elikus. This is the true manifestation of this ultimate wealth, that when Elikus is begili, everything is drawn to it. Valderech Mashakasav b'Mashiach, and this is what we find also by Mashiach, that Mashiach is a descendant of Shlomo, he's Mizera Shlomo, and the pasuk says, "V'noharu elav kol hagayim." All of the Goyim will be drawn to Mashiach. Why is this something special? Why is this something that the pasuk has to tell us about Mashiach? Why do we care that the Goyim are coming? Because that's part of a description of the state of tremendous Gili Elikus that will exist then. That all the Goyim will be drawn to Shlomo HaMelech, who sheyu nimshachim lelikus, that they're drawn to Elikus. The Gilui Eir that was there by Shlomo HaMelech, Mashach Elav, drew to it automatically as Sanitzeitzes Sheba'amim, all of the sparks that were there, including the sparks in the Goyim, B'dugma Savuka, like a torch, Shemesheches Eileha Kol Anitzeitzes, that all the sparks come and they're drawn to a big torch, to a flame. So what was the way that we saw in a literal sense the greatness of the Gili by Shlomo HaMelech? In the fact that when there's a big torch and there's sparks, they come to the torch. The bigger the flame, the further the sparks also get drawn to that flame. By Shlomo HaMelech was even the furthest nations came running to Shlomo HaMelech. This is an expression, says the Maimer, not of his great intellectual wisdom, but of the great Gili Elikus, and they were drawn to the Gili Elikus like a spark is drawn to a torch. And because it was such a great Gili by Shlomo HaMelech, even the sparks that were very distant, were drawn to this Gili. Like it says, Umalkas Shva Shamas es Shema Shlomo, L'Shem Hashem. That the main story that we learn in Tanakh of someone who was impressed and who came just to be impressed by the great wisdom of Shlomo was Malkas Shva. Shamas Shema Shlomo, she heard. Says the pasuk, the Rebbe says the Maimer, the pasuk says she heard L'Shem Hashem. That the pasuk itself points out that what was really drawing her was the Elikus, the Gili Elikus, the godliness. Vatava Yerushalayim, she came like a spark is drawn to a torch, she was drawn to the Gili Elikus. So the Ashirus Bimei Shlomo that was present in the whole reign of Shlomo, that was present and shown in the fact that he had no enemies, and all of the Goyim came and were drawn to him. This was all a manifestation of the Ashiros, of the fact that by him there was the ultimate Gili Elikus. This was there throughout the reign of Shlomo HaMelech, because the bittul of the Goyim was from the first moment of his reign. The other nations being drawn to him was throughout his reign. Except the main Gili, the main top place, area where this showed itself, this Ashiros, was in the base Beruchnis, in the Gili Elikus, and in Begashmias, in the tremendous wealth. V'hinei, zeh sheshleimei haya ish menucha, that Shlomo is described as a ish menucha, person of peace, of tranquility. That by him, the birur, the affecting the world by him was in a peaceful way. He didn't have to engage, like we're learning in all of the Mamarim. That's the pneumistic definition of menucha. This is how he differed from his father, from David HaMelech, that he didn't need a war and an engagement to accomplish what he had to accomplish. The birur hanitzeitzes, ela shanitzeitzes nimshechu elav me'atzmam sheizbaru. Shlomo HaMelech sat in his place in Yerushalayim, and all the nitzeitzes from the world were drawn to him. They came to him. That's the meaning of a birur that's b'derech menucha, a passive birur. So this was what happened by Shleima. Mainly, this was mainly al yedei hagili sheheyer bebeis hamikdash, through the gili of the Beis Hamikdash. That's where we saw it, and therefore the area by Shlomo HaMelech where we'll be able to see best the accomplishment of Shlomo HaMelech, and again we're looking for this because this will help us understand the Shiras, and therefore later this will help us understand Chesed that's above and beyond the Shiras. Where did we see this in the Beis Hamikdash? So to understand best the Ashiras that existed by Shlomo HaMelech, we're going to have to understand better exactly the Maila of the Gili of the Beis Hamikdash, and how the Birer of the Beis Hamikdash was Shalom, was in a way of Menucha. That we quoted earlier, the Maimer said that the Shalom that was in the Beis Hamikdash was in contrast to the Birer through the Mishkan that wasn't so much in a way of Shalom. The Birer.
How does it work? Chassidus, we're also focusing on practically what happened. Because on one hand, the Amish was so excited. And then because of all the negative things also. We're talking about as if the bid on the tzeitzes, everything was fine. How come it's a late? Everyone is drawn and there's no clipper. Was there clipper? Was there no clipper?
Saying by the Churban Beis Hamikdash?
No, by Shlomo.
Yeah.
I mean, the Zohar, whatever that was, that time was. I mean, it's a fact that happened also.
Was there Klippa in the world?
In Shlomo's domain.
L'cheira, everything is bechlos, because we say the ultimate is only when Mashiach comes. Nevertheless, those nitzitzes, what we said in the Maimer, those nitzitzes that were nizbarer through Shlomo HaMelech, were nizbarer in a way that they came to him. He didn't have to be involved with them. And another thing, that Shlomo HaMelech didn't have any enemies. The second, the Bir, the Ish Menucha, there was no, but that the whole world shouldn't have any klippa. That's not shaykh till Mashiach comes. So there were certain nitzitzes that weren't nizbar yet, and that's why there's still the whole Aveda of the Golus until Mashiach comes. So now we're going to elaborate on this difference, the contrast between the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash, that the true and main Shalom was in the Beis Hamikdash. When it's davening starting now? Yeah, okay, so we'll start from here.